So, welcome everybody. For the ones who haven't seen my face yet, I'm Gabriel. I'm the dev advocate for Pubky Core. And yeah, I'm very happy for you guys to be here. Thanks for joining. Let's have a look at what we're talking about today. We have quite a bit of stuff for you. So, first of all, for the people who are not that familiar with Pubky yet, I'm gonna give like a quick introduction, a quick overview. Then we're gonna see the new SDK that has been released, version 0.6, and see what's new there and everything that you guys can use now. And then we're gonna have an overview over the hackathon that we had internally at Synonym at the end of the last year and see what has been built there. And then we're gonna see also 2 projects from the community. One is Eventky and one is a dashboard for the home server. And then after that, we're gonna see the roadmap, what's planned for the first half of 2026. And then we're gonna have like a Q&A session. But if you have questions already before, don't hesitate. You can ask the questions in between the different presentations, and we can already give you answers there. Right. So yeah, why do we do Pubky and what are we building? So you all know the traditional web. It's basically when you visit a web app, usually you log in there and then an account gets created on the server of this company that you are visiting their web app from. And also the data that you create or use in that service is usually stored on the server of that company. And that comes with some problems, like you could maybe not access your data anymore if you would be locked out, if your account gets deleted or whatever. So there's forms of censorships that the owner of the service can do, so they can restrict you access or not allow you to share data that you want to share. And there's also the other problem: you can get locked in because your data is there and you want to use another server, but your data is not there, right? And your identity is also bound to that company. So usually you need to keep track of many different identities for different apps. Single sign-on kind of solves this a little bit, but it's more like a patch. Like it still gives even more power over you from the service that actually does the single sign-on. So the idea behind Pubky is to give back that power to you. So your identity is basically a public key, cryptography key pair. So you really own that. It's just a small bunch of data. And then when you visit a web app, the data is actually not stored on the server of that service, but instead the data is stored on your home server or whatever home server you choose. You could host that yourself, or maybe you have somebody else who hosts it for you, but you have the choice and not the people who run the service. So that gives you a lot of autonomy. It basically helps to not have walled gardens, because your data is really not tied to any service, and therefore also you then have no lock-in. Now, what's cool is that you can even switch your home server to another home server wherever it runs, at your home or a friend of yours runs it. And you can still use the same services and still have your data available to that service. And so this also discourages censorship. Because if your current home server would want to censor you, you could just move to an alternative home server, right? Now, there's a problem with that architecture, which is how do the services or the web apps, how do they know where your home server is? And for that, we use a technology called PCAR, which publishes your address of your home server in a sense on mainline DHT. And the point of that, really, we're not going into this right now, but the point of that is that it's like a P2P network, which gives you censorship resistance. So you have the power in your hands to switch your home server whenever you want. And again, you're not dependent on any institution or any service that you would need to use. All right. So that's that. And without further ado, let's dive into the SDK. And Shah will present this to you. And you can take over and share your screen.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gabriel. Try to present now. Do you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Okay. Ready. Yeah, so, I mean, with that introduction from Gabriel, it makes much easier now my presentation because I don't need to explain why this is relevant. What you need to know is all of this power that the Pubky core protocol gives you. If you are a developer, the only tool that you need to tap into it is the Pubky SDK. So you or your AI only needs to learn about this specific package or crate to be able to build applications over this protocol that Gabriel just introduced. Then other part of the stack that maybe you want to understand, which is the Pubky home server, that's the infrastructure. You might be interested on that if you want to host your own home server for other people. But as a developer of an application, this is the whole thing that you need to learn. So we have rebuilt Refactor very heavily. What we had last year was called the Pubky client into a tool that's more comprehensive and easier to understand for both humans that want to make an application and also for the AI. AIs can one-shot anything Pubky related right now. So I'm going to anyway explain to you kind of how it works, but it's kind of pointless because really everything I'm going to go here, I'm going to go the old style of how you teach some basics programming for an SDK. But this is very outdated right now. We're going to see how you install it and how you instantiate some objects and how you make some calls. But again, most likely you're never going to write one of these lines of code yourself right now. We have two versions for it. Same code base, but we have two first citizens languages. We have Rust native and JavaScript. There is a little bit of a few trade-offs between these two SDKs, that functionally they are pretty much the same. And their API surface is a mirror of each other. So like Gabriel said before, the pitch for Pubky is you own the identity, you hold the cryptographic key to your identity. You use it to point your data to your home server. Discovery happens on this P2P network and the DHT. And you don't need to open an account with a registrar. For example, you don't need to get a domain or any centralized solution. There's no gatekeepers. Even if you choose to store your data with a third-party home server that hosts for you, they cannot avoid that you leave and do, mirror your whole home server somewhere else. All of that you can manage with the Pubky SDK. Architecture is pretty simple. You will have your application. In your application, you're going to import the Pubky SDK, either in Rust, Create, or JavaScript. And the Pubky SDK has several high-level actors, and they are very self-explanatory. We have a signer. The signer does anything related with your private key. For example, if you're making a Pubky application that is let's say a cold wallet or a key ring, we have one that's called Pubky Ring. That's our implementation of a key ring. You can try to build your own. The only thing that you need probably is the signer. The signer can authenticate sessions. It can sign up to a new home server. It can publish a new PK record pointing to where your home server is now, in case you move home servers around. It's very, it's pretty much what you need for a signer. Then we have the session. This can act as a user. So every user will be a key session on the SDK, and it can just write to a home server, can read, it can perform all of the user actions. The storage part, the storage you can also use publicly. You don't need to have a session to access data as long as the data is public. And we can do events fetching. You can keep watching or listening to what other users are writing to their home servers. So you can build applications that are a little bit real time. And the outing, this is all of the module that you could use with the signer to authenticating to web applications. Maybe you've seen the Pubky out with QR codes. If you use Pubky app or any of the other Pubky applications that there are out there, they use this out module. How to install? Pretty easy. Just cargo uninstall or npm install Synonym. We're gonna go very quickly over the examples. You can just generate a new keeper or load a secret. Then you can instantiate the SDK and run a signer, and you can instantiate a new signer with the keeper. And if you want to have a valid session, all you need to do is sign up to a home server in case your user is not signed up, or you can even sign in case your user already has an account. Same thing, but in JavaScript, as you see, it's pretty much one-to-one. You can write authenticate data. Authenticated data you can only write if you have a user in a home server. The Pubky SDK does everything for you. This is pretty much a fetch, request, or put or get, that the Pubky SDK will figure out all of the PK resolving, where is your home server, to publish your PK record, right? All of that will be handled for you seamlessly, and you don't need to understand what's going on. And again, you don't even need to understand these specific calls, because the AI will do for you. It's very straightforward. You can do write authenticated, or you can read any Pubky data that is public, right? This is how we address data in Pubky. So we have a public key that's always prefixed by the Pubky name. So you understand this is the public key. Public directory, example.com application, and a profile JSON. So the outflows are also extremely seamless for developers. Your application will generate a Pubky out request that you can show as a QR code. You can see you can create a Pubky out request asking permission to write or read into some specific directory of the user. You can show that as a QR code, and then you just wait for approval, and it will keep calling the HTTP relay, waiting back from the signer or the keyring application, waiting for it to either out or reject, approve or reject that outing attempt. So as I just introduced before, every permission request that applications ask to write into the home server, they always scoped. So for example, this is a request to write into the example.com folder, read and write. The read is a little bit redundant. Everyone can read from the public directory, but for sure, only if you ask for write, you will be able to write into that folder. There's a capabilities builder. It's super well documented, very easy. It's just very syntax friendly for any Rust developer, but the same for JavaScript. Very easy to ask for permissions. And we can also fetch real-time events from other users. All you need to do is subscribe to the event stream. You can add the public key of the users you want to see their new events, what they are writing to their home servers. For example, let's say you are building a private messaging app. So you want to see whether your friends are writing new messages for you in their home server. So you can subscribe to those. And anytime there is a new event in their home server, your client will just tell you, hey, there's new data there for you. You just go and fetch it. We have one SDK that, I don't know if you guys can hear me. My microphone just changed. Works well? Okay.
Yeah, we can, yes.
Okay, perfect. So we have one SDK, but two worlds. We have a Rust native SDK, like we said, and this is the most powerful way to use Pubky because we use Pubky TLS. That means it's end-to-end encrypted based on the root key of the home server. So you don't need a domain, you don't need a TLS, you don't need the typical web stuff. However, those don't work on the browser. So on the browser, you will use the browser fetch API, and your home server will only get reachable if it has a ICANN domain. That's the limitations of trying to make the whole stuff work inside of a browser as well. If you're using native Rust, you can look up records directly in the NTHT, which is great for censorship resistance, 100% great. But from the browser environment, you don't have UDP port. I mean, you cannot use UDP. So therefore, we have what we call the Picard relays. There are a few of them, and they will look for the DNS packet in the DHT and relay to you. There's a few minor technical differences here, but these are the main ones. And of course, in Rust native, the Pubky SDK manages the cookies and everything for you. But on the browser, we rely on the browser to manage cookies. That's at the moment. This will change. The core of the Pubky SDK, it's shared between Rust native and JavaScript. So that means there is a single implementation of all of the crypto stuff, and it runs everywhere. That means that the JavaScript package is a WASM package, but we've made it in a way that any JavaScript developer will not need to understand anything about WASM. It will just work like any other regular npm install packet that you've ever used. So what can you build on this? Of course, you can build social media apps. I mean, we have a flagship app that's a social media messaging app. You can do file sharing. You can upload anything to your own home server and then share a link to anyone to discover it. For example, you can discover these links using our Explorer, Pubky Explorer. You can find it's open source like everything else. And in summary, you can build any application where the user owns the data and choose their server, basically any sovereign application. So thank you a lot. Give it a try. If you have any issues, just please open GitHub reports. We can try to help you either through Telegram, through Twitter. If you build anything on Pubky and you get stuck somewhere, just let us help you. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Well, thank you, Sean, for that nice presentation. Now, if anybody has a question, it's time to voice it now. As I'm starting to share my screen again. Right, so yeah, looks like we don't have any questions so far, but as you have seen, the SDK makes it really easy to build on top of Pubky. So I would really like to encourage you to go and check it out, whether you try Rust or JavaScript, and just have some fun and see yourself like how easy it becomes with the SDK. So yeah, then let's continue with Path. He is gonna show us what the Synonym team has built in the last hackathon.
Thank you, sir. As Gabriel said, my name is Path. I help Pubky and Synonym with business development. So I just wanted to quickly give an overview of what the team did. So in the light of the SDK being prepared for release, the team planned an internal hackathon during our annual team retreat. We kept the entire company basically across multiple product teams, built projects in just 48 hours using the Pubky SDK. And the effort yielded a burst of creativity, leading to all of these apps that you can see right now on your screen. Built some of the notable projects include an MCP server, which serves as a comprehensive resource hub, offering code examples, knowledge, and development tools for builders looking to create something with Pubky. And the other example is HomeGate, which is basically a gatekeeper that safeguards home servers against malicious mass signups through various prevention mechanisms. One is through an SMS, or the other option is you can pay a little bit of sats. All of this has specifically on the HomeGate site has been implemented in our flagship app, Pubky, which recently was open sourced. And these initiatives really highlight Pubky's commitment to self-sovereignty, decentralized tools, and community-driven innovation. And if you haven't done so already, go and give Pubky app a spin to see what it's all about there. That's it for me.
I guess I want to add that for both of the prior presentations, this really made things different since vibe coding has changed in the past few months and become much more viable for much more normal types of people. So this hackathon represents not just devs making apps, it's also the marketing team, business developers, myself. We were all able to use the SDK, plug in the SDK with examples as context and just use AI to make stuff. So if any of you are looking to get your feet wet with building on Pubky, it really is very easy. And this was just from our team. There's a number of community projects that we'll talk about within pubky.app, and also some bounty projects that I think we're going to get into next.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, and also Path for the presentation. So next up is Gilles with his Eventky platform, a calendar built on Pubky. I think you can take it away and share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Let me load real quick. Is that working? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so Eventky, I think some of you might have seen it already on Pubky app. Post about it, or this call being added on there. It's basically like a meetup.com alternative built on top of Pubky, allowing calendars and events to be created. So I'm just going to show you the possibilities that you can do with it real quick. So if you can see, I've got on the left side an instance open with one user, with a central authorized user, select the Swiss Bitcoin community. And on the right side, I've got my own account. And so I've made this calendar with one demo event in it, where you can see at a location, things like that, with the time, all of this cool stuff. And basically what I'm going to show you is how you could create a calendar and add some admins to that calendar. So you could have let's say, a calendar for your community where multiple people can add events, meetups, if you're doing Bitcoin meetups or whatever other things you're doing. So if I'm going to go here, I'm going to edit that calendar that's managed by this user. At the bottom, I can add an author. So let's say I'm going to add my own user here. Bottom, I'm going to save that. And as you can see, I'm listed as an author here. So if I'm reloading on that side where I'm logged in with my Gil user, you'll be able to see that I'm now able to add an event to that calendar. So let's add a short event. I added some information already, so I don't have to go over that now. It's basically, I'm going to create an event that's a recurring event. So let's say if you want to have an event that's happening on each last Thursday of the month, let's say for 3 times, but monthly, specific take positions, Thursdays, the last. So you can see that I've added here the 26th of February at 6 p.m. in UTC time zone with a duration of 2 hours. And then I set a recurring one with 3 events. It's going to have all these events. But let's say maybe in March, I want to have this event on another day because there's some holiday or something. And I'll want to set the 17th of March at 6 p.m. then. I can add this as an additional event and remove the 26th of March. It's going to be removed from that event instance. And because I've selected the demo calendar, or add event from the demo calendar, it's going to add that event to this calendar automatically. But what I can also do is add a single event to 2 different calendars. So as this user is an admin for this decentralized calendar, this demo calendar, and add both of them. I think that's everything filled out. And I can go ahead and create that event. You can see that I've got 3 instances coming up. So let's say I myself, as this user, on the 30th of April, I'm not able to attend this meetup. So I'm going to say I can't go. Not sure about the 17th, so I can attend as a maybe. And 26th of February, I'm going to be able to go. Another thing you can do is similar to the Pubky app. You can add tags. So let's say demo event and added demo. Yeah, basically that's it. We go over here and on the calendar itself, it should now render all these instances. So we can see in the monthly view, I've got the recurring event here listed on the 26th, on the 17th, and on the 30th of April. There's also a weekly view and an agenda view where all these events will be rendered, and depending on which date I have selected, everything will be shown. All of this is based on the Pubky app specs and the existing ICS standards for event and calendars. So there's basically interoperability between existing calendar apps that are possible. So for example, if I use, let's say this demo calendar, I want to add it to my own calendar. I can go to subscribe, copy the subscription link, and if we're going to review this calendar, you can see that I can add this feed link, and it will actually pull the events from Eventky, from the Eventky API, where it pulls it from the home servers and basically translates it into normal ICS files that's updated. The nice thing with this feeds is that if, let's say I'm going to go here or here on this demo event, and I'm going to edit it to say recurring demo event test, and I update this. As it is added as a feed, it should actually update it even in your calendar. So you should maybe it actually caches it so it doesn't actually go. Yeah, but it should actually update it after some while. I think that's it's caching it for a short while there. These tags, they work the same way as the tags in Pubky app work. It's saved into the same folder. And let's say if you're gonna go to events, that you can see which events are coming up across all calendars. You can filter by calendars, but also by these tags. So you can filter by demo, and it should actually filter out all events that are not tagged with this tag. There's also a calendar overview where you can discover all existing calendars on the Pubky network. There's a couple of testing calendars in there that might have to be cleaned up. Yeah, what else? There's a dashboard where you can see your own events, which calendars you manage, some quick stats, as well as your profile. And generally across all these events, let's say I'm going to go to the Pubky Dev Call event here. If for all these users that are added here, if I click on them, it will actually open their profile in Pubky app. So the profile management is the same as the Pubky. It's using Pubky.app for the profile management, pulling all the information from there. Yeah, there's a couple of things that will be added as well over the next few weeks. For example, my recurring events. Right now, we have same metadata for all events with just different dates. The idea is that you might be able to override a single event. And for like the Swiss Bitcoin community, I'm planning on integrating like a bot for Telegram and potentially other platforms that might send. And the users can actually see it, like the events in the chats, so that they get pulled in there, so that not everybody has to use it, while still being able to profit from this and things like that. Yeah. Are there any questions?
Not a question, but I want to boost you a bit and reiterate that this isn't just him using a Pubky key to log into a website that is a meetup call. It is actually using the primitives of Pubky, Homeserver, etc., to be able to add calendars and calendar events as a primitive in the Pubky ecosystem. So for now, it's mostly just showing through this Eventky app, but we would probably end up adding this into Pubky.app and other applications that want to have calendar aspects to them, and then eventually have events be a primitive that Pubky Nexus picks up and can be sorted within Pubky.app along with every other type of post. So it's also research towards, having the specs be updated to support this as an object inside of Pubky.
Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, thank you. I'll be posting about it if I have any updates on Pubky app. So keep looking out for it.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Gilles. I gotta say, I really love the design of Eventky. And as you have seen already while he was sharing the screen, this very event is also on Eventky. So go and check it out and stay tuned for the next episode on there. Yeah, so next up is another community project by Francis. Also a very exciting one. It's the Homeserver Dashboard, and Francis has made a lot of progress there. So let's find out what he has built. You can take it away, Francis, and share your screen.
Hey guys, I am Francis Mars. I have been developing a dashboard for the home server. So I will share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So I've been developing the home server dashboard. Everything is open source, of course. You can check the repository. The goal here is to, of course, with the principles of Pubky, that we are supposed to be giving permissionless access to people to have their own data, to control their own data. So one of the steps for this is to make it as easy as possible for people to run their own home servers. And so this is what we've been trying to do here with the dashboard, mostly with a graphical interface that allows users to interact with their own home server, and in this case, administrators, but as well with the integration for Umbrel, so that it's not only easy to interact with the home server, but actually to run the home server itself. So it's not only a front-end project. Of course, this is all connected to the home server. So there is some setup. So it's very easy to run. It's just npm install and npm run dev. So everybody can try it at home. You need to set up some environment variables, and you can also run it on Docker because also of Umbrel and also for security. So I isolate the environment. I also want to congratulate the team for all the progress they've been doing lately. And it's also very exciting that not only this project has been going in the front end component, but I also have been interacting a bit with the Pubky core repository. So in this case, these pull requests that I'm showing you here, it's related to the Docker integration with Umbrel, so that it's very easy for users to just go to Umbrel, press install, and with a mouse, they already have a spinning configured home server with a front-end dashboard for interaction. And also another thing is that this has been being a cooperative project with a team from the home server, because as I explore more and more possibilities, we realized that I would require more information or different kind of API endpoints. So I've been cooperating with the team, and it's been very cool. I've been learning a lot, and so I'm also thankful for this. If anybody wants to try out at home, it's already possible. It's not merged on Umbrel yet, but if you are running Umbrel, you just need to copy these files from the repository in my GitHub Umbrel apps. If you copy these files to your Umbrel through SSH, you can already run the home server and the dashboard. So it's cool that you can already try it. So if you do, please give me some feedback. It will be like, so when you go to the Umbrel app, this is the menu that you are going to be seeing with the information, what's new, and the about. But okay, let's jump to the actual demo. This was just an introduction. So this is the dashboard, of course, but in this case, I'm actually connected to, it's a staging home server from Pubky. So this is mostly for testing, but there's already some data, so we can see how it behaves. As you know, one of the important things in Pubky, it's the Pubkeys itself. So you can use this Pubky with a Packard to locate this home server. And so this is the basic information of the connection of the home server. And then you can interact with the users. So for example, you can see how many users this home server has, and you can enable or disable users in case of spam or bad actors. You have the choice. It's already working. You can enter the Pubky here, and it disables the user. So or enabled if it's already disabled. Some of the, for example, you see here disabled form. This is actually real data. There's 4 disabled users on this staging home server, but the list of users itself is still a mock. So some aspects of this project are still being integrated by the backend team. So it's being a very interactive process between me and them, and hopefully very soon we will have a graphical way here to activate users that you disabled in the past just by clicking this button. But for now, you would have to copy paste the Pubky. Another another thing that Pubky has is the system for invites to add users to the home server. So this works. For example, you can see here that this home server generated 3,100 invites, and of which of them 1,300 were already used. So I could come here and I could create an invite. When I press create an invite, it generates this invite code that if maybe I couldn't show this because if I press this button here, it shows the entire QR code with the URL, so any user could scan and have access to this home server using this code. And then with the users that are already part of the home server, you can browse through their files and see the user, the profile information and the posts, and if it's Pubky, different. So you can see here there's actions to. So another one thing in Pubky is that the administrator of the home server has access to perform actions in the files. So you can rename, you can delete. So this is one of the components of Pubky, is that you have always a possibility of exit, and you can choose to change home server, but there is a little bit of trust when you choose which home server you trust for people to represent you like that, because people will access your data through this home server. And in this case, you can see the profile JSON, the settings. This is files that you can go inside, you can delete, you can create files. You can delete a file by URL, so you don't have to navigate the folder system. And you can see how much disk is used, the space in the home server. And so yes, this is using WebDAV. The logs, it's still a mock. We want to implement a logging system for the administrator to be able to see more easily what's going on the home server, but for now it's still not implemented yet. And there's also a way to interact with the API calls of the home server through administration. You can be as an admin or as a client, like Chris was saying. You can interact. Clients don't need to be authenticated to interact, to read files or see the events. And so this is the functionalities. There is extra functionality here that I will show you through Umbrel. When I open through Umbrel and I go in the config here in the settings in the corner, you can see that it's loading the config file. So this is the actual config file, and without you see here, the sensible informations are hidden, so the backend doesn't send to the front end this sensible information. But you can actually, this is a front end, the dashboard that is connected to the home server. They are separate processes, but it's able through Docker right now to read the config file. Another thing that we've been implementing, the most recent task, is Cloudflare integration. So through Cloudflare, they create a tunnel to your local machine and then with a DNS, you can expose Pubky without having to, route open ports, maybe reducing your security system at home by doing that. So using Cloudflare, you can very easily set up, the dashboard in Cloudflare side. You can configure everything, and that's just copy paste your domain and your token that Cloudflare provides you. And after you reboot the home server, you automatically have. So you see, I'm exposing the home server to the internet without having to open ports on my home internet or router, which is not completed yet, this task, but very soon we are, one of the goals of this project is to try to make it as easy as possible for everybody in the world to to run their home server. So yes, this is it. You see here, since we are not running with Umbrella, not because of Umbrella, because if you are running a local home server, you can actually access the config file. But in this case, since it's remote, I don't have access yet. But we are going to work on this one. And now, yes, it's over. Please, if you have any questions or if you want to give some feedback, just still welcome to.
Just a general question of what do you think is the biggest next major step required or body of work needed to be able to say, all right, guys, anybody can just install this app on Umbro and run your own home server. Any noob can do it. It works, as soon as you open it, you just got to, add your key. That's it. What do you think are the biggest hurdles to do that?
Well, actually, I think this project, it makes it very easy. So right now, there's only a very small hurdle that we are going to discuss as a team this week, maybe tomorrow. That is right now, the way I have the tunnel with Cloudflare, it already works with the WASM, like Shah was explaining on this presentation. But it's still not working with a direct TLS using the native SDK. So I think this would be a next step to make it even easier. I'm not sure if it's possible yet. That's why I need to communicate with the team. Another thing that I think it would make it maybe easier for people, it would be authentication with using the SDK with your key. You could deploy this home server online, but any user could use it to connect to this home server without having to be connected to just one. You can have an authentication with your key, with your pub key, that knows that you are an administrator of a specific home server or several. And this page would redirect you to your own home server more easily without having to deploy it yourself, if I'm making myself understand it.
Yeah, I think I understand.
So yes, what's happening is that as we go, as we explore more and more, we are realizing important things like just this latest test with the Cloudflare. It was something that we didn't think a few weeks ago, but right now we realized it was very important. Please, Shah, if you have a question.
Yeah, just a note, because anyone who's listening to this, and we know people want to poke holes into everything, Cloudflare, it's not mandatory, okay? Cloudflare, it's a user experience solution for people who don't want to deal with their router. So they have a easy way to expose their home server in the way it currently works without having to have any technical knowledge. However, in the future, we will anyway probably explore other options that don't require Cloudflare and don't require the user to have any technical knowledge, neither of both, maybe through some sort of hole punching, blah, blah, but this will come later in the year. Anyway, if you don't trust Cloudflare and you don't want to have it as a dependency, anyway, you can run it and it will work, but you need to be a little bit more technical.
Yeah, exactly. As Shah was saying, Cloudflare is just an optional UX improvement that we are trying to add.
Yeah, I would say if you want, I don't know what a new pangolin is, but if you want that support, you're always welcome to open a pull request to his project.
Sorry, can you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
I was speaking to Gil. He left a comment asking if there was any chance that we would support Mute/Pangolin. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's another way of, connecting instead of Cloudflare or something related to that. And I was just joking, partially saying you could always submit a pull request to add that capability if you wanted it. It's not on the roadmap at the moment. We're just trying to figure out how to make it useful for our team and then make it useful for, I guess, normies that just want to run their own, host their own web data.
Okay, it seems cool, the self-hosted VPS to maybe we'll take a look into it. And you are welcome, as you see here, make a pull request, Mars/Homeserver Dashboard. So if that's everything from my side, thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you, Francis. Beautiful work. I see a pangolin request incoming from Carlos. PR incoming. Yeah, really exciting stuff. The dashboard itself, but also then the integration with Umbrel. I hope they merge that soon, and then in combination with that tunnel, really helps us to achieve that goal that you set to make it as easy as possible for everybody to run their own home server. So yeah, thank you, and we'll continue with the roadmap by John. You can take it away.
Thank you, sir. So, as the team already knows, I've been in the middle of trying to choreograph our roadmap for the year, and there's been various interruptions in my efforts to do that. But I've done my best to at least summarize what are the major things we're working towards in Q1 and Q2 related to Pubky. And so I'll narrate this a little bit. For Pubky.app, the app that you all know and love, of course, we're still doing some cleanup. We did the public launch in El Salvador not too long ago, and of course found all of the bugs that we missed, a bunch of edge cases, issues, tiny missing features, etc. So a lot of the work at the moment is just getting that, cleaned up and up to our own expectations. Eventually matching internal Figmas and having some, parity of features and designs to that. That could take a while. As far as new features, the first one I think you'll probably see is actually bringing it back, a feature from the beta version of the app, custom feeds. Some of you may notice those are missing in the current version. We just weren't able to complete it in time in the new, codenamed Frankie Pubky 2.0 app. So that should come soon, along with, features related to having multiple feeds. Sorry, what, Pedro? I didn't catch that. But the custom feeds will be there. The next thing is we had some pretty cool designs that we wanted to show off on launch for how to clean up how threads work in Pubky and responses and things like this. Those aren't quite in there yet. And so that will be another priority, is getting the kind of improved threads and response and, all of the way to sort all of these deeper nested responses and things like this, so things aren't a mess and make sense. Okay, Pedro, no problem. Then that will kind of wrap up or get us to the point where we've got most of the features we originally intended to already have in there. And then the next actual new feature set is likely to be collections. Collections is a way of taking the concept, pretty elegant way, in my opinion, of taking concepts of bookmarks and things like Twitter moments and all of these ways of collecting different types of posts and curating them for other people. And so you could do things like from having a podcast and the name of a podcast, and that could be the collection, and all the different episodes could be different episodes of the podcast collection. Or you could do this for your favorite photos, like you use it like Pinterest. But basically it's an elegant way to include this concept of curating a collection of URLs. So that will be coming too. You guys have seen us flirting with various bots in the platform. You've seen Tag Key from our friend Pasta Gringo. You've seen Frankie. You haven't seen Jeb yet. But we have various bot projects and various crazy ideas about how we want to integrate AI and bots within the Pubky ecosystem. So expect to see more experimentation there, and probably a lot more bots of various flavors. Oh yeah, ARN was the first one. I knew I was missing something. In the end, the bots all tend to disappear because well, running them for free is expensive. And so at some point in the future, we're probably going to look closely at whether we need to offer paid tiers, both for having more data in your home server if you want to run it as a service, and for providing access to maybe some premium features like AI integrations, AI bots, etc. But we have some decisions to make there and ways to do that. It's not a rush. Another big theme is data visualizations and meter boards. Right now, you can see the kind of hop page in Pubky app. That's very basic and just kind of a placeholder for the moment. We have a lot of ideas about ways we want to give people insight into the social graph of Pubky and all of the semantics tags inside of it and show the power of that. Still a little bit early. The graph isn't that huge yet, but very quickly as people tag things, you create more apps and tag more types of things, there's going to be a lot of good reasons to show different reports, different comparisons, different leaderboards, etc. And so that's going to be a whole theme of features this year. As you already saw Gil presenting events, we want to figure out how that looks and how to get that into Pubky.app effectively, along with a similar feature and project around maps. You guys may have seen Corey's project, GeoStories, was part of the hackathon, and then Miguel and others have also flirted with different maps features in Pubky in private, experiments. So we want to make those more formal and have also, primitives for the graph or, coordinates and OpenStreetMaps and things like this. We're also going to be looking closely at a path to a mobile app for Pubky. I know we have Pubky Ring, but having only Pubky Ring in the App Store does confuse some people. They tend to think that might be the app, or they want to try to get into the app through Pubky Ring. So we're going to be polishing some of those user flows, but also looking at whether there's a simple way to ship Pubky web app as a mobile app. Stumbled on this TWA concept. I'm not sure how far we can take that, but I want to look into it and see if we can just ship it as a web app. If not, we'll have maybe a longer term plan for some sort of mobile app, but it's just not in the short term cards at the moment because our biggest project and our biggest priority for the next months through halfway through the year is e-commerce marketplace related features. So that is going to end up trumping other priorities in most cases because it is the most important thing for demonstrating the kind of actual first 1.0 of what we call the atomic economy and our vision, is letting people be able to buy and sell things to each other. And so that's really, really important to me. And so a lot of the features and themes around different Pubky teams and research and development is going to be anchored around payments. Going into Pubky Core, we have done a lot of work on creating a noise library. We have 2 different versions of it, and we're trying to figure out best next steps forward to finalize it. But this is something that's a requirement to cover a lot of ground on private data use cases, payment use cases, just the next stage in how to improve capabilities for Pubky data on a home server beyond just the currently everything is totally public. This is going to introduce some private use cases, but not all of them. There's still going to be another phase of private data after this, but this is going to be the most important next step because, again, this leads into requirements related to marketplace, e-commerce, and payments for the ecosystem. Once that library is complete, we're going to look at putting that integrating into our applications, most notably Pubky Ring and then BitKits. This is going to bring capabilities for Paykit, which I'll mention in the next slide, and app key delegation concept, which is going to allow certain types of signing use cases from a delegated key. Identity binding, various use cases like this. So in the end, once the noise library is done and integrated into Pubky Ring, any application would be able to not only get a home server session from Pubky Ring, but also get an identity bound noise key or other delegated keys related to other use cases. So that's research is been going on for a while and at the tail end as far as the noise development. So that should be getting into our apps and integrating soon, and that will be a major theme of the next few months. As Francis already showed, having a personal home server is a big priority, and that's why things like the Cloudflare tunneling have popped up. But we also have some overlap in our research and use cases. Backups work and mirroring work that we need to do. So we're going to be doing some planning around what does the personal home server app look like, where if there is a line, where does it fall between a personal home server, a personal backup app that just keeps backups of everything on a remote home server, mirroring so you have redundancy to be able to easily migrate and hot swap home servers if necessary. All of this kind of stuff is going to be happening this year throughout the next few quarters. Very speculatively, also a small update on credit system research that we've been doing. You guys may have heard me bring up Atomicity in the past. That has completed its first round of research where we now have a first draft of a technical spec and kind of white paper sort of thing. That is actually pretty low priority though, and it follows finishing work on the finalizing the cryptography specs for the noise library as well. But it's a pretty cool project. It's just not something I'm willing to make a priority until we finish all of the other stuff. So you'll probably hear me talk more about it in the middle of the year than in the next few months. Next slide, please. So Pubky Nexus and Paykit. You also saw I mentioned Pubky MCP. That was a hackathon project from Blada that was more related to coding resources and being, aware of Pubky in general. But the next kind of major phase is making it so we can have AI that can be graph aware and AI features that can be graph aware. What that means essentially is a capability for a user to be able to type something about what they want to see and have that be reinterpreted by AI into an actual graph query for the database, have that query sanitized to make sure there's nothing dangerous inside, then run on the database of the graph, and then report the outcome back to the user through Pubky app or whatever other use case that we're trying to do. The important thing being that I want to demonstrate what it actually looks like when an AI has access to a highly contextualized social graph. It doesn't exist anywhere else. The closest thing is people kind of think they can get Grok to say things about the Twitter graph, but I don't think Grok has full access. But it's a very cool thing to demonstrate, what the power of graph actually is, and then later the power of the types of custom feeds and custom filtering you could actually do with this capability. So that's going to be a major project going forward. Another one, which is already hinted at earlier, is more kind of first-class citizens in the graph. Basically, right now you've got, the public keys, the tags as edges connecting to either other public keys or other posts. We want to make it so you could tag, URLs in a generic sense, OpenStreetMap coordinates, hashes, whatever kind of core use cases we think people are going to need for curation and tagging in the greater web. And then, also give users, this is also a Pubky app feature, give users more capability to apply the graph, namely graph distance. Right now, you can, even with custom feeds, mostly what you can do is just filter by tag in the content. We need to filter by tag on the users, the keys as well, and we need to filter by distance, which would be, friends of friends or friends of friends of friends or friends of friends of friends within a specific tag, this kind of thing. And that's going to show more clearly why you don't need a quote unquote the algorithm in Pubky and that you are that. Finally, Paykit. This is like kind of the anchor and center around all of our e-commerce intentions to make a marketplace into the Pubky ecosystem. We have a kind of deeply vibe-coded version of a Paykit Rust library that we've integrated, as a kind of research experiment into Pubky Ring along with Noise to BitKit, iOS, BitKit, Android as well. and we've kind of demonstrated the whole thing as possible. So now we're going to spend time cleaning all of this up and making it not just a vibe output, but the goal being that Paykit will act as a generic payment protocol or superficial payment protocol, if you will, where it doesn't matter what the settlement type is, whether it's Bitcoin, Lightning, Arc, Spark, Ethereum, PayPal, whatever. You have a superficial payment protocol that handles compatibly subscriptions, payment requests, auto pay, allowances, payment method matching, and having, signed receipts, and ultimately having any aspect of a checkout UX also be possible to be reflected in a wallet, like expiration of an invoice, recommended fee if you're sending on chain, whatever it may be. There's a lot of stuff that we can do that we only have to solve once, even if you only think of it through the lens of Bitcoin, where it's silly to go and add subscriptions to, say, Bolt 12 and then add them again to Bolt 13. And then what do? You're going to use Bolt 12 subscriptions for Taproot. It just becomes a big mess because we're always trying to reinvent payment protocols. And I think we should treat them more like settlement protocols. And so that's what Paykit is attempting to express. And it also, once you get into that paradigm, it provides like new features that didn't actually exist before. For example, the concept of a payment request in peer-to-peer or crypto is not really a thing, right? But it's something we could definitely do. Or you can just say, this person owes me this much money and I need to ask them for it. But not only that, that person could also have an allowance already set for your key, where when you do ask for a payment, say because of a subscription or a valid payment request, your wallet could actually auto pay that up to a certain amount in the background. And so it's kind of primitives or also credit in there as well, because Paykit will be a big requirement in relation to the credit system research that we're doing as well. This is kind of like an early taste of it. And so the final big thing that ties all this together as far as e-commerce and such is this concept that we call Pubky Locks. We are still in the early stages of the R&D for the design of how that works, but it does require most of what we already are doing with Paykit and Noise, etc. It's just one more layer of complexity and capability we want to add into the Pubky ecosystem, where basically anybody will be able to trust a home server at first to deliver on any sort of unlocked action. So for example, you want to use our home server as a place to charge for your podcast for every episode. You could do this either through a crowd wall, where like there's one goal, and once it's met by anybody and everybody, it's that item becomes public to everybody. You'll be able to have certain conditions met, or puzzle locks eventually, geographic blocks. In other words, you could do geocaching where the person has to show that they're in a certain location. You could have locks where basically the person can't see what's behind the content unless they've been tagged a certain way, essentially like a membership. This can also be a way of expressing subscriptions, basically access. You could have locks that are just plain passwords. You can have locks that are, pay per view. In other words, every time somebody visits, they have to pay to unlock it. They could be always unlocked if they've paid with a receipt, subscription based, etc. So the real core theme is that for Q1 and Q2, we want to end in Q2 and be in the summer where we have as many payment and e-commerce capabilities in the Pubky ecosystem as possible. That's really the major milestone. But I've probably given you more detail than you want already. There's many other things we hope to accomplish in the same time frame in our kind of internal roadmaps. So please be patient and tolerant if we don't complete all of the stuff here. It's just intentions at the moment. And we're doing our best to always ship as efficiently as possible and prioritize as intelligently as possible. So with that, I'm done. If anyone has any questions, I think we're in the Q&A section. You're welcome to ask questions about roadmap, about anything to do with Pubky, about anything to do with the earlier presentations, whatever you like. The team members are also welcome to ask questions too, because I know that I haven't quite shared all of these roadmap intentions, some of these items with anybody till this call. So if you have any questions, let me know. All right. Well, I guess our content was just too thorough. There's no questions at all. There was no uncertainty in the Pubky Dev Call. All right, Gabriel, do we have anything else we want to cover before we go?
I think that's it. No, everybody's just happy with what they've seen. No, I think we can finish it up then. Make sure to visit these courses and yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to check out the code, the org is github.com/pubkey. You can find us on X as getpubkey. You can join us. I forget it's with the t.me/pubkey core if you want to talk in Telegram. Pubky.org, we just updated the entire knowledge base, and Gabriel's still chipping away at improving it page by page. So if you haven't looked at it recently, I recommend it because it's actually semi-accurate now, whereas before it was kind of a cursory attempt from a year ago. That's much more current. But yeah, thank you everybody for your time and your interest. Please share your experiences building with Pubky, and if you have any trouble with it, Gabriel's here to figure out making developer experience as good as possible. And we're just going to keep working on shipping all this stuff. Thanks, everyone.